Steve Bannon helped set up Cambridge Analytica in 2013 with billionaire Robert Mercer's money. It became one of his main tools for moving politics to the right. He took methods using military psychological operations and applied them to voters in democratic elections. The company collapsed after the scandal, although the same methods still appear in political campaigns across the world. Cambridge Analytica gathered large amounts of data from people's Facebook activity and used it to build psychological profiles that predicted how people could be influenced. The reach went far beyond what most people thought possible at the time. So the company grew out of a British organisation called the SCL Group, which had spent a long time running psychological operations for militaries and intelligence agencies. They were specialists in shaping perception about morale during conflict, and they brought those techniques into elections. The system began with a Facebook app that looked like a personality quiz. You might remember it, or you might have taken it yourself. It had been created by an academic researcher, and it collected data from the people who took it and from all their Facebook friends who had not consented. The quiz gathered posts, relationship status, location, pages and groups that you followed, and every post you ever liked. From this, Cambridge Analytica built what they called psychographic profiles, based on personality traits rather than standard demographics. They used the Ocean model, you might know it as the Big Five personality test, which measures openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So, with enough data, they could estimate personality, political leanings, likelihood of voting, and which messages would be most effective on who. Earlier work at Cambridge University had already shown how revealing Facebook likes could be. 10 likes predicted personality better than a colleague, 70 likes better than a friend, 150 better than a family member, and 300 better than a partner. Every like left a trace. Cambridge Analytica took that research and turned it into a political tool, merging it with the quiz data to create a really detailed psychological map of millions of voters or potential voters. Bannon became vice president of Cambridge Analytica in 2014 and stayed until he left to run Trump's campaign in 2016. According to whistleblower Chris Wiley, he approved the Facebook data collection and was directly involved in operations. Wiley described the company as Steve Bannon's arsenal of weaponry to wage a cultural war on America using military strategies. SCL's core work involved breaking morale, spreading confusion, and shaping perception. And they had tested these methods for years in conflict zones and fragile democracies. One former employee described using targeted text messages in African countries to create fear or spread false claims about candidates, testing which messages worked on which groups. Bannon viewed the same methods as tools to shift Western politics. Bright gave him a media base. Cambridge Analytica gave him precision. Data showed who could be moved and how. Under his direction, the company began testing anti-establishment messages in 2014, long before Trump's formal campaign. So phrases like drain the swamp and deep state were tried on young male white voters who felt angry and shut out. By the time Trump announced his candidacy, Bannon already had evidence on which messages worked and which profiles were most responsive. He also helped connect Cambridge Analytica with Brexit campaigners for the Leave campaign. The same psychological targeting used in the United States was tested in Britain, building a transatlantic cooperation. Micro-targeting and manipulation. So, micro-targeting means sending many versions of a message to small groups based on their psychological traits. A person who is anxious and distrustful receives warnings about threats and insecurity. A person who is open and hopeful receives messages about renewal and opportunity. This means voters do not see the same campaign. Each person sees a version tailored to their emotions and weak points. Two neighbours can support the same politician for different reasons because each was shown a different story. They tested hundreds of slogans to find the most effective. Drain the Swamp was not spontaneous. Testing showed it connected with people who felt betrayed by political elites. The team measured emotional reactions, dropped what wasn't successful, and kept what triggered the strongest response. The same process applied to immigration, trade, and culture. The staff tested different ways of framing the same issue, tracked reactions, and used whatever produced the biggest emotional surge. This is one reason Trump's rhetoric often sounded inconsistent to analysts. Well, I think that's mainly because he tends to sound inconsistent, but this could be another reason. It was about what worked with a given audience at a given time. During Brexit, messages about sovereignty, immigration, NHS funding, and Turkey joining the EU were tested and refined. The £350 million a week for the NHS claim was not random. It'd been tested and found persuasive, even though it was very misleading. Take Back Control went through repeated trials until it hit the intended emotional nerve, implying that something had been taken and needed to be reclaimed. During the 2016 US election, Cambridge Analytica claimed they sent billions of targeted ads to American voters, each one shaped by psychological data. A person who scored high in agreeableness saw messages about unity, compassion, and restoring harmony. A person who scored low in agreeableness saw messages about strength, defiance, and standing up to the establishment. People anxious about immigration saw messages filled with threats and border imagery, like those pictures of like just millions of people crossing the border on donkeys and carts and things like that. So people worried about jobs saw promises to bring the factories back. Religious voters received content about protecting Christian values. Each group saw a version of Trump built to match specific traits and triggers. The same data also supported voter suppression. Analysts identified African American voters who had supported Obama but felt unenthusiastic about Clinton and targeted them with content designed to reduce turnout. These were not pro-Trump ads, they were negative or cynical messages suggesting that Clinton was corrupt or that voting would make no difference. This was voter suppression by psychology rather than by law, and it was carried out quietly and precisely. Let's look at how we can protect ourselves against this without deleting our social media accounts completely, which, if you can do that, go ahead and do that. But obviously, these days, a lot of us are using it for political activism, to connect with other people, so on and so forth. So it's a bit of a difficult one at the moment. But if you are using social media, you are being profiled, and it's only set to get worse using AI and other technologies. So many people, especially those involved in politics or activism, need to reduce how much can be collected while staying active on social media. So you can start by checking what data Facebook, Instagram, Google, TikTok, etc. have about you. Facebook lets you download your data and see advertising categories assigned to you. Knowing that profile can help you understand why particular posts and ads appear. You can review privacy settings. Deleting history is a funny one as well, because basically it resets your algorithm. So, you can sort of like have a clean slate. By doing that, you can really see how the algorithm really just gives you one side of a story. You should obviously clear cookies, browsing history, and search history weekly, which is inconvenient but necessary, which reminds me I should do that. You can use like the private browser as well, especially when you're researching political topics. And that would go for like AI. Be very careful about what you are putting into AI. Delete your conversations frequently, but stay abreast of the changes in law regarding like the deletion of data and things like that, because there's some grey areas going on at the moment there. For example, try using encrypted messaging such as Signal. Another good idea would be to have a separate account that you use for liking, sharing, commenting on political content, one that doesn't directly have your name on it. In my head, I always think, well, they can check who that account belongs to, so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter so much. But it's still a good idea, still a level of protection, and it also can protect you against trolls as well. You should also try like teaching these things to other people, making sure that everyone is informed, especially older members of your family. So stay active, stay careful, but don't make yourself easy to read.